We're trying to record. Shut the hell up.
We can cut this part out.
Or we can keep it for bloopers.
But you can still cut it out.
That too.
Okay, let's start again. So within, we're gonna start again now.
Welcome to the Peas in Progress podcast. Here, we'll share our experiences as a biracial millennial couple who got married in the South and what we've learned together through the current social and political climate.
All while learning to trust and love one another through what seems to be a life in transition. Welcome to our life.
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Amy Beth.
Hey friends, just a friendly notice. We want to let you know that this podcast will be adult friendly, including language and subject matter not suitable for younger ears. So if you have headphones, now would be a good time to use them.
Hi.
And we're recording.
We're back. Thanks for coming back to this podcast.
What's up?
Hey everybody. So this is Amy Beth. And that's Brandon.
What's up?
Okay, well, this is going to be the juicy podcast of how our relationship started, into our dating, and a little bit of our engagement, and when we got married. So, last week we took you on a tour of our childhood. Thank you for sitting through that therapy session. So now we're just going to walk you through the fun times of year one. Year one, I guess, like year one of us, because it was
but it's not.
But it was BC marriage up till marriage. So, you want to start us off because you probably remember this a little bit better than I did.
Yeah, I actually have fun telling this story because there was so much.
Wait. Down. So where we left off was, where did we leave off? We left off in our friendship in Camp of the Hills. So this is whenever we started hanging out at ACU.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this first interaction, yeah, you go for it.
Yeah, so we had been talking on Facebook Messenger, which was super fresh and new, so it was hip to us. So to all you young people out there, shut your mouth. Anyway, but yeah, we were talking on Messenger, and somehow the idea of let's go eat at Chick-fil-A, which is one of the campus restaurants, came into play. And so we made a plan to meet at Chick-fil-A. And it was great. I remember just getting to know you, and we were just asking each other questions and being curious about each other's lives. But of course, my good old clown friends, yeah, I said it, clowns, Josh and Vince walked by, and they were all like, I see you, Brandon, making a whole big deal about it. I'm just out trying to get to know this girl. Why are y'all being clowns? So, yeah, that happened. Well, you got a different version of that story?
You know that the show called Lizzie McGuire, where she has that little person, the animated person that comes along with her,
telling her the story of her life or something like that.
This would be me telling that story as if it happened. So I remember walking out of a really hard therapy session. I had been started going to therapy. I think a month or two prior, before we had lunch. Due to some requirements by my parents, as well as me wanting to go because I just got out of a really hard relationship. And I had been crying. So, this was a really awkwardly timed lunch for me because I just came over there, it just spilled my freaking guts to Brandon over lunch over these Chick-fil-A sandwiches. And by the way, I did not hear or see your friends be clowns behind us.
Because they were behind you and facing me.
Exactly. So I never saw that actually happen or go down. But I just remember being really thankful for that lunch that day because I had such a hard time in dude relationships up to that point. And it was really refreshing to sit with somebody who was the opposite gender of me. The opposite? Are you opposite? Because I feel like there's so many different things.
You're a woman.
Like Kiwi, he's anyways, it was just really refreshing to sit with you in that moment and have that with you, because I just remember being really upset and just coming to terms with some stuff in my personal life. So you got the leftovers, but you're a therapist now, so I feel like that was a good practice run. But you know what, though? We really have to give credit where credit is due for this relationship. Because while we did go to Chick-fil-A first, you did go get your hair done by my roommate and best friend, Lizzie. She did your dreads.
Yes. So keep in mind, for me, this is after having met Amy Beth at camp and thinking that she was awesome and already out of my league because everybody knew her. And she was like this super cool girl that everybody just loved being around. So already that happened. Then we just had this awesome lunch. You know, we're chatting, getting to know each other. I'm able to be a friend to her. So I go to get my hair done, and her friend, best friend, Lizzie, we're just chatting and whatnot, just talking about different stuff at ACU because we all went to ACU and stuff that we liked about it, stuff we didn't like about it, you know, school and all that great stuff. And then suddenly she was like, "So, you know, my friend Amy Beth." And I was like,
Doing his
"Yeah."
hair, by the way.
Yeah, well, all while doing my hair. So,
So
like, it's
he's
not like I
stuck.
can walk away from this conversation. Like, I'm trapped at this point.
Trapped.
Anyway, so yeah, she was like, "Oh, my friend Amy Beth." And I was, "Yeah, what about her?" And she was like, "You think she's cool, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I worked at camp and stuff. And, like, it was great. And, like, she's cool." And Lizzie was like, "So, would you consider dating her?" And I was like, "Whoa, that question's kind of forward, but yeah, I would. I think she's cool because, like, she is." So yeah, I told her all of that, not being careful or anything. It was just like before I knew it, my heart was already like, "Hey, she the one. Go get her." And what I didn't know was that she was gonna go immediately relay that information to you.
But first, before I tell that part of the story, I would like to know what your mindset was leaving that conversation that day. What were you feeling? What was going on inside?
It was kind of like, I wouldn't call it like an aha moment, but more so of like a, huh. Like it made me like think more about it, if that makes sense.
So it was like a watering to the seed.
Yeah, it was like she straight up planted a seed or like watered the seed that was already there. Yeah, it was like a huh. I
Well,
don't really know how to explain that, but
well, that's
besides,
good to know because I was freaking out. Okay, so my friend comes home from work, and I had just gotten home from school. It was like an afternoon.
wait, did she like walk in calmly? Did she like run straight to you?
No, it wasn't like that. Girls aren't just like ah all the time.
I was just
We
curious.
are pretty. I would feel like we're a pretty down to earth group of women. Anyways, so she comes in and she says, "So, like something like this. So, I kind of talked about you to Brandon today." And my stomach dropped. I remember my stomach dropping and my eyes got really big and I was like, "What did you say?" And I only freaked out because I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's gonna think I'm boy crazy. I just don't want to like be that girl that's going after dudes and getting her, like quote unquote getting her friends, like talk to them for her." And because I can be straightforward, as you'll find out.
Yep.
And that's just, I was just freaking out. But then I thought about it and I was like, man, now I don't have to have this conversation. And I was just like, well, I guess we'll see how this goes. I didn't put a lot of hope into it because I had a lot of not so good relationships before you. So I kind of just kept my cool about it. I didn't really rush this process. And that was around November. And then the next month,
Yeah.
we went to IHOP. And we went to IHOP.
Hmm.
And
I think it was like another one of those conversations that we were having on Messenger. I don't know if Lizzie had talked more to you about it, or me at that part or point, or I just knew that we wanted to hang out again, and so wasn't that like finals week at
it was
ACU?
finals week.
Yeah, and we were just like, well, we got this time where we're not doing anything, so why don't we just like go get some brunch and stuff? And so, yeah, we drove all the way across town to that one and only IHOP in
Mm-hmm.
Abilene and got food. And I think I remember getting like a cappuccino or something like that.
We had lots of coffee. I don't.
Yes,
You might have gotten a cappuccino,
I'm pretty
but
sure I had like a
we
cappuccino.
did a
So
lot of talking though. Do you remember what we talked about?
yeah, I think we were talking about just like our experience at school, like how finals kind of sucked and we're ready to like be done. We talked about like what we were planning on doing during break. I remember going on a snowboarding trip and you were just like going home. But I think most importantly, we like kind of talked about our stories to each other. Like we shared testimonies with each other.
Yeah, because I remember being so tired from the night before. I think I'd stayed up till like 4 in the morning on a art project, which was very normal for me at that point in time. I remember having like 4 cups of coffee and just saying, "Just tell me your story." Like I was just so tired, but I was excited to go, and I remember paying for half of it at least with my IHOP gift card that my parents gave me. And I would consider that our first date. We both paid for half, which
Yeah.
is really funny. And I remember going home that day and calling Lizzie and telling her about it. I was so pumped. I was like, "This dude's amazing. I'm not gonna be able to stop thinking about him." We just had a really great conversation, and I was really pumped. That was a really uplifting time, and
Yeah. Meanwhile, my friends were like teasing me the whole time. It's just like, you ain't Amy Beth. I'm just like, bro, it's like chill. It's not about that right now.
right. What's like, I was just waiting for you to follow the neon signs that your friends and my friends were laying out for this relationship. Um, but that didn't happen because the next month, which was like that January, I think of, I don't remember what year. Was it 2000? You graduated in
Was it?
you graduated in 2012, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was 2013 of January that you and Josh had a joint birthday party
We always had
at
joint birthday stuff.
Wingstop, which is kind of interesting because we no longer eat there. But I just remember being invited. I don't remember who I was invited by. I don't remember that, but I remember going, and my friends were gonna take me with them and make sure I dressed up. I like did my hair, did my makeup perfect to make sure my eyebrows were plucked, like everything. And
Meanwhile, I come with a long red tee, a red St. Louis hat, and just looking a hot mess.
shiny.
Very shiny, very greasy.
Why was that?
I don't know, maybe because I wasn't eating right. My body was
You was
inflamed,
oily.
pimple face.
So that day, I remember it being really awkward. I remember everyone trying to get us to sit together. When it finally happened, your friends like, boo! And you're just like, oh my gosh, you're such a college crew. Like, oh man. So we had these, awkward first encounters, but there's one awkward encounter that I don't want to forget to talk about, which was it was my senior year, my last spring semester
Oh my gosh.
of of art school.
Do we have to tell this story?
I'm going to.
Okay.
Well, you're going to tell your side. So let me explain it a little bit. I had done so I was an artist. I did art and photography. I had gotten a internship at a local photography place, and which meant I had a key to this photo studio. And so my goal was to get some guinea pigs and take some photos around the area inside the photo studio. And Brandon volunteered himself.
I sure did.
I think he had saw my Facebook status or something, and then reached out to me on Messenger. I don't think it was called Messenger but in that time period, was it?
No.
It was like old school Facebook. Anyways, so
No.
so Brandon brings all his clothes. We go upstairs to this photo shoot place, and we had done some pictures up at that point, and you were changing. Well, Brandon Brandon. When he's got his mind on something, or he's like really distracted or excited, or even if he's anxious or in a hurry, he tends to forget the tiniest of important details. One of those being closing the door to the room that he was changing in. So Amy Beth looks over and sees, not on purpose, because like I didn't realize the door was open at this point. But, you know, I just like sent him in there. I was like, yeah, I'll go change. I'll just wait out here. I turn over and there's a mirror in the most convenient positions in the door. Like I can see the mirror through the door, and the mirror is reflecting Brandon bent over, pulling down his pants, and he gives me eye contact, you guys. We didn't talk about this incident for almost 3 months. We didn't talk about it even when it happened. Like, that's just how giddy and little and baby we were about. We just didn't. It was really funny. Brandon, do you remember what you were thinking when I caught you almost booty naked?
Oh, it might as well have been like a sitcom, like a scene in like Friends or something.
Right, where you hear a sound effect that's like boing, something like The Office.
But I just remember making eye contact, and it was just like, shit. But I wouldn't move. And so, like, eventually, after I came to my senses,
I just looked away. I just looked away.
Like, hurriedly pulled up my pants.
And he comes out, and he didn't say nothing, Jesus, nothing.
Absolutely nothing. I was too embarrassed.
So, like I said, we had a lot of awkward encounters in the beginning. Some that were known about, and some that weren't. But that's kind of how our pre-friendship started, which is a lot of fun stories to tell, because there's just it's just fun how it happened.
Yeah.
So I think it was March for me. I don't know when it was for you, but do you remember when we had, and don't freak out, people, this is gonna sound a little woo-woo, but I promise, just stay grounded with me for a minute. But Brandon and I both had the same vision about each other, very separately, very different times, and didn't tell each other about it for a long time. So the vision that we had, and mine happened on a spring break trip when I was in Dallas.
Mine happened like late January, early February.
So his happened before mine. Keep this in mind, please. So I just remember vividly seeing a carriage with what are those, Clydesdales?
Mm-hmm.
Clydesdales being pulled, kind of like the Budweiser stuff in St. Louis,
yeah.
which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And the words that were paired with it were, he will lead you, and you will lead him, and you will lead each other. And I was like, what the heck? Why did that just come to my mind? I wasn't thinking about this. So I kind of just kept it to myself. Still really freaked out. I don't remember if I journaled about it or not. I should go look for that and see if I did. But it was creeping me out. I don't remember if you remember what that was like for you. Did you remember when you had that vision?
I think for me that was at a time where like those kind of dreams were really starting to happen a lot often. Like there's one point where I had a dream where one of my best friends was supposed to go talk to this guy to get a resident assistant job. And this is during the time for my friend where it was either he finds some sort of way to like work or paying for college was going to be difficult. And lo and behold, I told him about the dream and it like came into fruition. Like he was able to get an RA job. So for me, I always like kept track of my dreams because I always wondered if there was some sort of message within them.
And you still do that?
To this day.
So do you remember having this one, and what did you think about it?
It was kind of weird because it, like with the kind of dreams that I've been having, it didn't make sense to be like thinking about horses and then have like that specific of a message that almost sound like it was meant just for me. Like it wasn't meant for me to tell anybody, but for me to kind of like hold in my back pocket. So yeah, I just remember it feeling weird, but just kind of like having faith that it was going to be useful somehow.
Yeah. Well, do you remember when I told you about this? Can I
Yeah,
tell you my version? Cause, and then I can tell you that you can say what happened,
yeah.
cause it makes more sense that way. So I told you, like the week after it happened, or like the same Sunday after it happened, I'd gotten back from the trip and we were gonna go to lunch and I was gonna tell you about my trip. And that's, I did not want to tell you, about it because I thought you would think I was crazy, as any person would be afraid to feel. But I told you, and I remember just feeling like I needed to. It was like on the tip. It was like in my throat, and I was like, okay, okay, okay. I'm gonna tell you what happened, but don't freak out. And so I told you about it, and I remember you just like becoming so silent, and I was like, frick, like I just totally scared this guy off. We've been forming this relationship, and great, I blew it because I felt like I blew it because you're like, I gotta go to work soon. Can I go drop you off early? And I'm like, oh my gosh, oh no. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely not what I was thinking. So I remember you saying the vision like word for word what I heard, and my jaw I felt like dropped, but I don't think it
No,
did.
it didn't.
It felt like my jaw dropped, and I was just like, "Holy shit!" Uh, that's her. That's the one. But I don't want to freak her out and just like outright say that. So let me go pray first and like get some confirmation, like make sure I heard what I had heard, and it was what I heard. And so for me, it was just like, okay, I gotta go for it. Like I gotta go for it. Like I gotta ask her.
So I got impatient. That's a great way to start off this next part. Um, I wanted an excuse to see him again because I was going crazy. We had been hanging out and talking over a 4 or 5 month period, and I really liked you. Like, I just really, really liked you, and I didn't want to let go of you, and you're just so kind to me. And so I bought you a dog leash for your dog because I'm a dog person, you're a dog person. And it was not an ordinary dog leash. It was
Oh
a
no.
light up
Oh
dog
nay,
leash.
nay. It was a
Yes.
light up leash.
It was a light up dog leash. It had 2 different functions, by the way. Doesn't work anymore. We still have it. Fun fact. And then we went walking around the Lunsford Trail around ACU. And I just couldn't take it anymore. We were walking. I was showing you a YouTube video. I think it was Marcel the Show. And you laughed, and then you got done. And I was like, ha ha ha, okay, now. Like, I remember saying, listen, and you can tell your version, but this is how my version goes down. I just said, listen, I'm I'm going a little crazy here. We've been talking for a long time now. We both have been hanging out one on one. I just, like, I can see this going somewhere, and I wanted to know what you thought about it. But
That
Brandon,
is not how you said it. You were like, and I repeat, look, I can't take this anymore. Look, I think we're dating, but I don't know if we're dating. I want to date you, and I think you're awesome, but I don't know if I can do this, like, kind of dating thing anymore. And I'm just like, hold up. Because I was actually planning on asking you when we got to the end of the trail anyway. Oh, by the way, that vision that you told me about, I had the exact same one. And that's when I had knew. And you were just like, oh my gosh!
okay.
Oh my
I
gosh!
did I
Really?
did really freak out and I cried and I was like, I can't believe this is happening. I thought you were like mad at me or thought I was nuts, and then I just was like freaking out. And so we shared our vision, we shared our shared vision, and we talked a lot. I was so ecstatic that evening. That was just, I was like, oh, this is gonna be it. Like, I knew it. Like, and I had already known it because, by the way, people, I had known since January because me and God had a little conversation, and he spoke to me in that moment and said, in January, it was actually after you and Josh's birthday party, that we were going to glorify his name together. And I was like, okay, whatever that means. But hopefully that means we get married. So that's when I started writing letters to you. And I wrote a lot of letters up to that point. And throughout this whole process that we're talking about right now, up until we got married, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first time. Foreshadowing. So yeah, people were super excited about our marriage. I remember everyone I told, they were
You
just
mean
like,
us dating?
yes. Did I say marriage?
Yeah, we get
Wrong.
we did get married
Okay. Back. I was getting excited about marriage because I am married to you now.
Heyo.
But people were really excited about us dating. Staying up late. We asked a lot of questions. I remember getting on Pinterest a lot with you. We just stayed up and asked a lot of questions, and we didn't really do much other than that because you were working a lot. You had graduated, you were working, saving up money, and we were really food obsessed, so we did a lot of Pinteresting.
Lots and lots of Pinteresting.
It was annoying because I would be so hungry when you would leave because it was just we'd be like, oh, it was like food porn. We watched a lot of food porn whenever we were starting dating.
Yeah, now that I think of it, yeah,
we really did. We were like, oh my gosh, we have to make that. Yeah. So also, hold on. Can we pause it so you don't have to record all of this?
it would mess up the timing and overlap recording. It would be weird.
Okay. I think we're just gonna have to deal with it. You ready to start again?
Yeah, lots of Pinterest, lots of watching food porn. We watched some movies together.
We watched
we was just
Emperor's
like,
New Groove. I think that was the first movie that we watched together.
I thought it was Hercules.
Oh, I might have been wrong. We did watch both of those within like the first few weeks of our dating.
Neither here or there.
So later on, I had my senior art show, which was stressful.
It was awesome.
It was really great.
She had the best work there.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
We all had really good work.
One of my residents was there, and I thought yours was much better than his. Just saying.
That's just rude.
I love you, James.
To each his own. So at this art show, my parents came into town, and that was the first time that you got to meet my family. My sister was there, my parents were there, my brother was there, and we went out to Rosa's, which is the traditional Texan thing to do after a meeting of some sort. And that was you went and ate with us. Do you remember that?
I do remember
well, wait,
that.
Wait,
Who
how
else
did you
was
feel?
there, though?
It wasn't anybody else. It was just my family and I. And you.
I thought there was like some family friends or something there.
No,
Maybe
there
I
wasn't.
was wrong.
You're wrong.
But that was nerve-wracking as fuck, y'all. Let me just say, being an African American, meeting a white family with all the potential stereotypes and assumptions and biases like tied to it, like that was straight up nerve-wracking. And she hadn't really talked about her family much, and I don't know if it was on purpose or not. I mean, neither here or there. But this is like straight up first encounter / first impressions / this could go totally wrong. Like I was not prepared. But thankfully, it actually went really well. I remember having an opportunity to talk to him about goals that I had and things that I was doing.
Well, they were very curious, so they were asking about your work and school and what your plans were and this and that.
Meanwhile, like Connor's kind of like staring at me, like reading Dad to see if Dad likes me, therefore he liked me. Mom was just like all into me. Like I think I caught her, with my first impression really well. I love you, Mom. I remember Taylor giving me the side eye a few times, like, who are you? Like, I'm not just gonna let anyone date my sister. You're gonna have to run through like the gamut first. So I remember her giving me the side eye, but I also remember her not kicking my butt. So I think it went well.
Well, Taylor just gives side eye, so
Like
that's just
straight
like
up
her
side
natural. That's her natural look. Love you. So we dated after that for a few months, and we went to my parents' house a few times. And I remember our first kiss. I think I had like found something on your phone, and I was like, "What is this?" And apparently, a coworker had, I don't know, done something you shouldn't on your phone when he asked to borrow it. Later, that coworker got in trouble, obviously.
That coworker got fired.
So I was just kind of like, I really love this guy. It hasn't been said yet. Actually, I had said it. I said it. I forgot what happened. I don't even remember why, but it just came over me, and I told you.
In my room, just like hanging out.
This was like a month into our relationship, and I just felt it. It came over me, and I said it, and then you just hugged me.
I didn't know what to do with it.
Right. Well,
I didn't want to offend you either, because like I felt that it was heartfelt, but I knew I just couldn't say it back to shit. Like I didn't want to be that guy.
Well, I understand that, but it was like I had thought I had effed up, and I didn't, luckily. But our like first, did we say our first kiss?
We were just about to talk about it, and then
I was talking about the first time we said "I love you," which was on the Doghouse.
Mm-hmm. But our first kiss, another awkward team bonding.
Well, I was talking about the Doghouse because I was like, I'd gotten mad, I was getting upset, and then you came out there and you were like, I love you. You like told me, I love you, and like, it wasn't like a desperate thing either. We had like a serious conversation before that. It's funny because like it was on the Doghouse, and now we are in the dog castle. I didn't even think about that. I think we just subconsciously did that for each other. Anyways. So our first kiss. This is a fun story.
It is not a fun story.
It's not a fun story for Brandon because he gets embarrassed about it.
Like, what the hell was I thinking?
I don't know. Well, we had gone to Sam's Club that day and gotten really shitty pizza from Sam's Club.
Like, straight up shitty pizza.
Like, I don't remember why we went to Sam's Club. I think it was just because we were bored and we went and hang out and go get free samples. So we went to Sam's Club. We're coming home because it was like early afternoon because Brandon had to go to work early. Right. And so we had spent that, lunchtime at Sam's Club. And I remember like feeling like it was okay to kiss you at that point. And that's when I like
no.
That's when I was embarrassing too. Oh. Just wait. So I had said, I feel like I can kiss you now. And you were like, okay. And you're like waiting for me to do it. And I like put my hand over my mouth and I was like, I can't do it. Then Brandon comes in, airplane mode, and pecked me on the neck. And I was like, you missed. And then we kissed on the lips. And then it gets better. Brandon walks away from me because he's got to go. He gets to his car, opens the door, salutes me.
It was not my finest moment.
And gets in the car and leaves. And then I ran inside. I ran inside laughing. I just shushed you, sorry. I ran inside laughing. And I remember my friend Caitlin coming in and being like, why are you laughing? I was like, he kissed me on the neck. And she was like, what the heck? I was like, yes, the neck. So, Brandon, do you have a version of that, or would you like to just leave it as is?
I think that should just be left as is. No comment, Your Honor.
I do have to say, though, we were very respectful of each other's sexual boundaries. For me, previous relationships had not been that way, and I felt as if I was kind of pulled into that while I did initiate as well. I cannot say that I was not perfect or that I was perfect because I wasn't. And I had fornicated beforehand. I had had sex beforehand, before Brandon. And so I really understood the gravity of what that meant and knew the maturity level that needed to happen in order to have sex with somebody and like just what that means. And so it was really important for me to not take advantage of that from Brandon, especially because he had been a virgin up until we got married, literally. But just through this relationship, I wanted to show him that I respected him, and he respected me a lot too. So our first kiss happened at least 3 months into our relationship. And no, 3 months?
Yeah.
It was 3 months. We didn't even after that, we didn't kiss even sitting on the couch just because we knew that we wanted each other.
Yeah.
We didn't ever talk about it like that, but our kisses said it all. And so it was very apparent that we needed to refrain and it would be worth it, and it definitely was. Mm-hmm. So after our first kiss, we should talk about when we talked about marriage, because I know that people ask that question. Well, when do you talk about marriage? Well, or do you want to get married? Do you want to be committed to someone your whole life? Do you know yourself enough? I feel like Brandon and I both knew what we wanted. And so even before this relationship, I knew what I wanted because I had figured out what I didn't want. And so this relationship was the bee's knees compared to all my other relationships. In fact, it exceeded comparisons, obviously. But we did talk about that, I think, was it that summer?
It was that summer because it was
pretty early on.
Yeah.
It was really early on.
Because I remember that being between like my first and second year in the master's program. And we were just talking about it, and I think we both knew at that point, but at the same time we wanted to like make it known between the two of us that up until that point we still are dating, we still are trying to get to know each other, we still are learning how to like serve next to one another, like learn about each other's interests, how we can support each other. Like it was still like known that we were dating, but at the same time, I think we were just letting each other know, like, I could see me going the distance with you.
Yeah. And you had said, too, I remember just saying, there's no pressure on this, but just know that, like, I don't really want to search for anybody else. I had just been so done with relationships at that point. And then when I found you, I was like, I can't let this dude go. So I need to have this conversation with him. And that's really when things got good the things were good for us our first year. I feel like I think another question people always ask us though is like, did we ever fight in our relationship? And that's yeah, cute. We fought, but it wasn't so cute. I wish you could see his face. Well, they can't.
But you can't. I'm sorry. But I remember a lot of our quote unquote fights were more like miscommunications, which we still struggle to this day.
To this day. Like yesterday.
Like even yesterday.
Yesterday.
We've
October 30th.
We definitely have gotten better at like reconciling faster and like taking accountability and stuff. But yeah, I think a lot of our fights were more about that as we were learning to, like, I guess be in tune with each other. So I wouldn't say we, like, fought about anything crazy or, like, anything that threatened our relationship ending. I don't think. No.
Well, I would say that I exhibited a lot of insecurities in our first part of our relationship because of how terrible the last one had ended, because like that's why I went to therapy. Like that was one of the like main reasons I went to therapy, was to deal with that relationship and how it ended. And I would bring that into our relationship, and you would have to remind me over and over, like, I'm not him, I'm not him, I'm not him. I'm not this person. I'm not your family. And, that took a while. Like, it wasn't like, oh, he told me he wasn't him. He's not him. I didn't just believe that overnight. It took a while because of the trauma that had built up over this relationship that I had previous to Brandon. And so I feel like we didn't know what was happening, but now looking back, I can see what was happening, because I remember the first miscommunication that we had was about, we had planned to go somewhere and you weren't answering your phone, and like, we were dating at that point. I was like, why is this dude okay? Like, he's not answering his phone. And so I wasn't trying to be crazy. I was legitimately concerned because we had made plans. And so I remember going to your house and being like, hello. And you were like, I'm on the phone with my mom. It's really serious. And I was like, well, you could have let me know. Like, just say that, like, I understand those kind of things. So that was a miscommunication we had to learn through. It was like really minute compared to the miscommunications we can have now. But
I mean, you weren't the only one that brought in like the insecurity stuff, because I was battling with like this deal of, I guess, worthiness, like feeling like I had some worth, especially with kind of the background that I had, and just me learning how to cope with all of that. It didn't make sense that someone would want to know about that, but then also still love me despite of that. Because a lot of people, when they hear my story, it's almost like too much for them, even just like the snapshots. But for Amy Beth, it was just like she wanted to know more, and that almost like drew her closer to me. And I never really had that, like outside of family members or outside of like some of my friends that I had. Like, I never had it to that level to where like someone cared that much. And so I remember standing outside of your apartment one night, and we were about to kiss, but I like freaked out because I'm just like, why do you love me so much? Like, why do you care? And I remember you saying like, dude, like, I am in love with you. Like, I see who you are. Like, I don't care what happened to you or what's gonna happen to you. Like, I want to be with you. And I remember just thinking that was so meaningful that she didn't really have to say any of that. She could have thought that I was weird and, insecure, and could have totally like tanked all of that. But instead, that was an opportunity for her to like express that love even more. And so I know for me, that was like a really meaningful moment. I mean, despite the miscommunications, like that was like another thing outside of the vision that I really held on to.
Right. Well, speaking of family, which we weren't, we should talk about when I met your family for the first time, which was Christmas of 2013. And that was my first time to fly by myself, solo, out of Austin to St. Louis. And we stayed with Beth and Todd, and I just remember how hospitable they were. I was so tired that night, but they wanted to show me the entire city, and I was totally down. I was volunteering for myself, but I was exhausted, and it was amazing. Like, they were just so kind. I remember, and they still are so kind. They still are this way, but they were just so kind to me, and were wanting to get to know me, and were excited to meet me, and it was just really fun. And then I remember going and meeting your mom, and just, like, you described your childhood. You didn't describe where you come from or what it looks like. You just kind of described the background which you came from. And, I had kind of envisioned this, this is so terrible and could sound so racist, but please hear me when I say this. It was almost like I had envisioned what was that movie called? The Blind Side?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of envisioned that kind of life for you, which it was kind of like that in a way, but it was a much more extreme level than I anticipated. And I remember just walking into your mom's house. First of all, I knew exactly who your mom was because you look exactly like her, and she would say the same thing. But I remember walking in, and just being like, wow. Wow, 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 wow. I was really happy to meet your family, though. They were so loving of me, asking me questions, joking around with me already, just saying shit. Saying shit, and like I was saying shit back, and they were loving it, and it was really fun. I remember meeting your dad for the first time. He's like, well, Mr. B. Like, my favorite black man voice of like all time next to Morgan Freeman. But just like, for real, they were just so open and just like wanting to get to know me, and I could just see them in you, and that was like a really cool experience to witness where you came from and get to drive around your city. And I really fell in love with St. Louis. Just, it made me so happy that I was gonna be marrying a city boy because I had always wanted to live in the city, and it was just a really great time. And we were really excited, and it just really solidified my love and respect for Brandon. I remember coming home, going back to Beth and Todd's house, and they were out of town for Christmas at that point. And it was the Christmas day, and we'd come home, and we were gonna let the dogs out, and you went back there, and I just like lost it. I lost it. I started crying, and I walked back there, and you turned around, and you're like, are you okay? And I'm just like, I just love you so much. Like, it was just so beautiful to see. Like, if you don't know Brandon, like, he just is this fucking light. Like, he just exudes this joy, this uncontainable joy, and it just spreads, and it's contagious, and he just makes everyone feels safe and loved and heard, and that's just the kind of dude he is. And for him to come from such an extreme background compared to mine, I have to say, just compared to mine, because this is just a background, really, just like the opposite of how I was grown up to live in. Like, it was beautiful. And not to say that he needed to confide to my way of living, but I had just never experienced going into the homes like that and seeing a whole different world than where I grew up. And it just made me appreciate him so much more. It humbled me lower. I felt very just like, I don't know nothing, Jesus. And I felt that way at Camp of the Hills. So, like, as just this white woman meeting her future black family-in-law, like, it was really eye-opening and amazing. And that was one of my most favorite memories. Was just, I wish I could just replay all of that, just because it was such an experience,
Maybe we can make a movie out of our life someday.
Well, this is just the precursor to that. So I remember, had you started your master's at that point?
Yeah, I was.
Oh yeah, you did.
I was still in my first year, and I was like going into the second half of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think after St. Louis, I knew for me, like, I want this woman. Like, if she can not only say that she wants to be with me, but has literally experienced my family firsthand, has literally experienced where I came from, literally has like walked on some of the ground where like some of my trauma was, like, I knew, like, with the vision, all of that, I just knew, like, it's time to snatch her up. And so I remember later on after that, like, we went ring shopping and stuff, and so made sure that ring shopping, might as well call it what it is, because you got the ring that you wanted.
Which wasn't expensive at all, because I would prefer opal.
Which I wasn't even mad about. Like, I was going to get her a diamond if she wanted a diamond.
But we weren't taking a loan out to get no stupid ring. Like,
yeah, it was going to be like a tiny diamond. Like, cubic zirconia diamond. But I just knew. And so I'd been talking with her best friend, Rebecca, at the time, and we were trying to, like, coordinate everything because she was planning on, for Amy Beth's birthday, like, taking her to go get her nails done and whatnot. And so I thought it would be a great setup for her to have her hair done and nails done and all that great stuff. And I had hid the box without the ring with the scavenger hunt clue that would let me know, regardless of where I was, that she had found it. Therefore, I was going to drop what I was doing and meet her at the final spot and propose. That plan did not work because someone doesn't go through their purse like I thought they would.
I was carrying big purses at the time.
Big
I had too
purses.
much stuff. And I just didn't dig down there. You know, I have my wallet, my gun, my phone. That's all I really need. Everything else is extra just in case. I don't carry purses like that anymore, so I could definitely find it now. But I've never found it. And the fact that you literally did that, and it still blows my mind because I literally never found it. Like, I never questioned anything. I didn't know. So what actually happened was,
So I had to go like all Mission Impossible, sneak into her purse, get the box back, and honestly, I didn't really have a plan B. But I think I remember you were coming from a friend's house.
no, I can tell you,
Okay.
Rebecca and I had gotten our nails done that day. I had diarrhea. I went home and true story.
I forgot about that part.
Probably TMI, but it was not cool. I was not really taking care of myself then, so that doesn't surprise me. But I had gone home and I had gotten a text from you, and you're like, hey, my bicycle broke down over by the labyrinth on the Lunsford Trail. Can you come and get me? And I was like, I know exactly what's happening because I had told you, please don't propose to me on my birthday, but it better be before my birthday. It was February 13th, 2014. So
It could have been a few days earlier had you just dug your fingers into your purse.
do you realize that my birthday that year was my golden birthday? I didn't even know that then. But anyways, on my golden birthday, I'm just kidding. No, no. So I go over there, and you're standing in the middle of the little labyrinth. And if you guys need to know what the labyrinth is, it's basically this little maze that they put out on this rock patio type thing over by the ACU Welcome Center, which is just the big, obnoxious glass building in front of the lake with the fountain and the labyrinth. So that was the spot that Brandon and I started dating. And so I already knew what was happening because I saw him in the middle and he made me go around that maze. And then I was like, fuck it. And I ran to him or I like did it really fast or something. I remember I was just like annoyed, like, I know what's happening. And you got down on one knee and asked me, and we got engaged. We didn't tell anybody for 2 weeks. We told people personally. We made sure not to put on social media for a while because we really wanted to make sure to respect our relationship and really tell those people that asked or who really mattered. So like it was really important to us to tell people before we told people, if that makes sense. So his plan failed, but then it actually worked. But shit hit the fan pretty quickly after we got engaged.
So long story short, it was almost like Satan was just like, hell no. So my bank account was hacked, all of my money drained.
All of it.
Like all of it.
And it was student loan money. It wasn't just like,
money that, I was saving.
Wait, you did have savings in there too.
It was gone. All of it was gone. Like all of my savings that I had in there from when I was saving, plus the loan money that I had to like live, gone. Just like that.
Yeah.
And I also discovered there was or was that later, like credit card fraud or?
That was with it, I think.
So like everything's hitting the fan. Meanwhile, I'm also trying to like plan wedding stuff and like get that situated. And all but one professor in particular was giving me like the go ahead, like, yeah, we can work with you when you get back. Congratulations, things are gonna be great.
Because we were only gonna take like the weekend, like the Friday before the weekend off to go out there to the ranch, and then what else? we, yeah, it was just, it was crazy. It was so messy. It was such a messy situation. I remember also just feeling really unsupported because we had let a whole group of people from church know that we had something going on, and they paid no attention to it. And it wasn't until Brandon's friend Josh brought this up to the group that we were actually being paid attention to. And we were distraught, you guys. Like, we didn't know what to do. I don't think we were 22, 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I had to call my family and ask them for help. And my granny ended up helping pay bills, like pay rent and that kind of stuff. And then an anonymous but not so anonymous person donated $1,000 to us and just said, you guys need this more than I do, and I want to give it to you. And it was really crazy. You know, there was only like a few people that really came through for us, and it felt like nobody else did. They were just like, well, sucks to suck, and like no prayers were offered. Like, it was just really hard on us, and we never went back to that group because we were so hurt that it would have been painful to go back because we just felt so unsupported. And we kind of felt on our own anyway, which leads me to this next surprise topic for some people, maybe not some. But we actually eloped. We got married a month before we got married on April 19th. That was like the weekend of Easter, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This is the day before Easter. So, Brandon, why don't you tell them why we did that?
I mean, that could be a whole book in and of itself, but I think for us, we just realized that this was always about us. Like, from the very beginning when we met at camp, to becoming friends, to having the same vision, to learning about each other's stories and loving each other through it and in it, and all the way up to going through some of the hard stuff even before we got married. Like, we knew that it was all about us. And we had actually had some encouragement with this decision. Do we tell them about that?
Encouragement? Why don't you tell them about that?
Yeah, so sorry, Dad, but snitching.
Oh, my dad. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell that. No, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Because it really was an us decision. Like, we really had thought about it even before my dad said anything. And I had been having some struggle with my family. And I think I had blurted out to my dad. I was like, well, good, because we eloped anyway. But he had encouraged us before that. He was like, why don't you guys just elope? And then I'll pay for a badass honeymoon. And I was like, you know what? I like that idea. But I still want to have a wedding to invite my friends to. And we planned one. We planned one for May 17th, 2014. That was our original plan. Even back when we first started talking about marriage.
Right.
Because we had picked a date. Like, we had picked a date. I think it was like that December before we had picked a date. And so we had planned this, but my dad kind of encouraged it. And so I was like, well, you know what? Why don't we just do it? We also had a lot of stress around that time because I think it was the week before we got married, I would say married again. There was going to be, you know, a transition period that I had to move all my stuff out of my apartment. And, you know, we planned our honeymoon. So like we had booked a honeymoon for like 2 weeks after the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So we got married, came back to Abilene, were married for a week, and then went on our honeymoon after all the stress had passed. So the reason we eloped was to avoid all the stress, and it worked.
Yeah.
It really did work. It even, you know, we were able to just keep it hush-hush. Not everyone knew. The people that came to our elopement were Dale Akers, one of your best friends. He officiated, and my sister as a witness, because my sister said she would kill me if I wasn't inviting her to my wedding. So she came in and helped me, and went shopping with me and stuff, and we went to IHOP afterwards, all four of us. And they were like, "You guys need to go. Like, you need to go. You need to go. You need to go."
That was such an awkward.
They made it awkward. We were excited to be with them. Like, we just wanted like, "Yay, we're married." It wasn't even about that. Yeah, it wasn't about that. It was never about the sex for us. Even though we were hella excited about having sex, it was not about that for us.
Right.
So we eloped, and then we got married again by Dad's suggestion. We had a ranch wedding. It was fun, where we had kangaroos and zebras, and all your family was distracted by that. I think we had probably less than 60 people there for sure,
which was fun.
It was our closest friends, my childhood friends, Brandon's, Matt, Melanie, Beth, and Todd. Your biological family was not able to make it, unfortunately, even though we had a reception later on where
we had one in St. Louis, just kind of like celebrating us, and that was fun.
Right. So the day after we got married, though, do you remember just like our car broke down,
like blue
in the parking lot? We were like,
this is like like the day after our wedding, the day after, of course, we consummated.
Well, we had we consummated when we eloped, babe.
Well, I'm talking about
when we consummated again.
Yeah, the reconsummation after
the night we had like we had like a hamburger or something. So I had been trying to lose weight, and I had been very successful, but I was not eating junk food, and my goal was to have a cheeseburger the night we got married. And we had a lot of drinks too. I was like, fuck it, we're gonna eat and drink everything. I just want to eat and drink everything.
So we go meet my family for
the day after,
which hella awkward
for you.
Yeah, because I could tell they were just like Meanwhile, I'm just like, already did.
He's a man now. He's a man now.
Did. But then the car broke down, like for no reason. Like,
right. And I just remember, like, it was Beth or Melanie or somebody was saying, like, "Oh, man, I know a couple that got married and they had shit happen to them for, like, 2 years." And I'm just like, oh, my gosh, like, please don't tell me that. But it was like she had prophesied over our marriage. Because that's a good way to end this podcast, which we'll explain in our next one. We will talk more about our first years of marriage, probably I would say up to the point of Colorado.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that had happened between then and Colorado that make up for what we were experiencing now here in Colorado. I said Colorado a lot. Colorado. We do love it here. So that'll be our next podcast. This is a good foundation. See, we're building the foundations of this podcast.
So, like, this is kind of like the core of who we are, and now you're about
This is like the framing. The first one was the foundation. This is the framing.
Now you're about to get some meat.
Yes, so then we're going to be putting the walls up, and I'm not going to use meat analogies because I'm a vegan.
I'm thinking muscles, like, on the skeleton, not never mind.
I don't like to think about inside, so I'm gonna go with a house.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Anyways, so that's gonna be our next one. We'll talk about our first few years of marriage. What was that like, and how much fun it was. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of really good memories. It was like give or take. So you'll just have to find out. So, yeah.
Yeah. So again, thank you for taking some time to listen to our story and perhaps learn a thing or two about us and about, what we do, how we came together.
Well, how can they find you?
Well, Brandon, if you like what you're hearing and you want to hear more, which you're going to want to hear more, please subscribe. Subscribe to our podcast.
But how do they find you?
How do they find me?
Do you want them to find you?
Of course I want them to find me. You can find me on the Insta at that.bold.outcast. All spelled correctly. Dot meaning period. No weird spaces. That.bold.outcast. And how can they find you, Boopy?
Boopy. We're pulling it out. Okay, we call it Boopy. Not Booby. Boopy. Have to clarify. Anyways, so you can find me, and you can actually find the home of this podcast on thatveganwife.com. And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook as ThatVeganWife. Super simple. Super simple.
Yeah, you can also find out more about our podcast on the Insta at peasinprogress. That's right. And if you want to get in contact with us, you can also send us a DM there or one of our own pages if you're curious about more parts of our individual journeys or early dating experiences, early marriage experiences. You can also send us an email at peasinprogress@gmail.com.
Yep. That's how you find us. So, it's Halloween today as we're recording this, and we decided to make some salted caramel chocolate cupcakes. And we did it super cupcake war style and let them cool, and now it's time to fill it with salted caramel, ice them, and drizzle that shit all over it.
You might find a picture or one or all of our Instagram pages. So
Yeah.
there you go. Be jealous.
No, we're not going to tell people. We're not going to encourage FOMO here. This is not that kind of podcast.
Well, they missing out anyway, so look for the recipe.
Hey, Brandon.
And don't miss out.
Brandon.
What?
Let's go make cupcakes then. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, bye, you guys. See you next time.
Bye.